Okay, so what we've got here, I've just received a PAF that's not working. It just stopped going on this on the customer. Just received it, taken it out of the packet and had a look at it. Seems to have been played with at some point, possibly, we'll find out, but we've got no reading whatsoever. Just confirm that everything's working. So expose the active on the inside and we're dead. So either one, both of the coils have either given up or one of the connections has given up. So when you're working with something like an original old PAF, always try and do the least invasive repair as possible. So what I'm going to have to do now is undo it, chase both the start and finish wires of both of the coils and identify what the problem is. Keeping track of everything that I take out goes back in the same way. So being a PAF, what we're going to have on this is, if we check it, adjustable side is the south side and the slug side is north, and they're both counterclockwise wound 42 gauge PE wire generally. Well, they are. I'll have a wooden spacer under the slug side there, metal spacer bar down the center. It'll be grounded from the start end here and they'll join in the middle. And the finish end of the slug side will be connected to the active. Anyway, so I'll start taking this thing apart and I'll try and show you as we go with any of the interesting things with the original 59 vintage PAF. First thing I'm going to do is just remove some of this tape that's been placed on there at some point not too long back and expose the start and the end of the coils. Okay, it's not looking too bad for a PAF. So you can see the main components of it here, I hope. I'm not great, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, so unedited. So there we've got our bar magnet, M5 pattern bar magnet down the center. There's a wooden spacer down there, a rock maple spacer, and that's all held in place with the 4 screws at the bottom. There's the 2 finish ends of our coils joined together, so we'll check that connection there. We'll also check the end connection from the slug side that goes down to our active end here. I don't know what you can see. Sorry if you can't see it all. And if we identify all those connections are intact and okay, which they look to be, unfortunately the problem starts sort of migrating back to the coil themselves. We're still not getting a reading off that end. Sometimes we can find which coil's working, which one isn't. All right, so we've got one coil working there, which being on the outside, which is the start. So the active adjustable side's actually still working. So we're starting now to think that the problem is probably over here with the slug side. And we've got, if I try and get a reading from the slug side, I'm getting nothing. If I go back to the active side, I'm getting a normal PAF sort of 4K reading out of that. So I now know that I'll generally leave the start of, or I'll leave the adjustable side alone as much as possible, because our problem certainly is stemming from the slug side coil. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just remove the base screws from the slug side coil, so I can remove that coil completely, because I've got a fair idea if it's not functioning. We can open it up and have a look at the wire and the joins, but more than likely, given the amount of rust, I'm sorry if you can't see this because I'm just doing it, you can see the amount of rust around the poles and things, so there may be a bit of corrosion inside as well. Even though the wire coil is actually isolated from the pole pieces, unlike say a strap pickup, but it just indicates it's had a little bit of moisture and things over its lifetime. Now, okay, so that's all we have. It sits with one side of the poles touching the magnet, the other side supported by the little spacer bar. And I continually test the continuity as I go, because moving these things, they sometimes come back to life magically. Oh, not happening. The adjustable side's still working well. Just got the soldering iron heating up, so what I'm going to do is, you can see that, we're going to desolder the two connections, and then I'm going to have a look what's going on inside here, which involves unwrapping the windings, which in itself can be quite risky because it's very old and tacky, and these, if there's loose or exposed windings, then they tend to just snap. But it's my expectation that we're going to need to do a rewind on this coil side anyhow. So this old wire and tape and things can be pretty gacky, and we'll also be able to see if this has been rewound at any point in its history. Okay, so I'm just removing the coil now from the pickup itself so we can have a look at it. So we've established so far that this side, the slug, the adjustable coil, is functioning okay. You can see the old markings, Gibson, the texture marks that they would use to mark the north side of their bar magnets. They usually use 2 or 3 just black texture marks. Now I've removed the tape, and you can see the finish end, the start end of the coil is there, and it's just wound 5,000 turns of 42 gauge plain enamel wire. And you can see against the white here, so that looks fairly intact. So the problem to me would indicate that it's broken in there somewhere. There's some loose windings down here, which isn't a good sign. Looking at that coil, and having seen other, it's the correct color wire and things, but the coil wind just doesn't look particularly professional or Gibson-like. However, it's not wax potted, it's a dry coil, so might be one of the early original ones. So fortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to save it. It's not happening. No obvious surface breaks. Yeah. Anyway, get rid of that. So what we'll do now is I'll just replace that coil with another one that reads the same as that, 4.7-ish. Put it back together and it should be good to go again. Just cleaning up the bobbin. I've removed the old problem damaged coil or dead coil. So I'm just removing all the muck and gunk out of it, so when I go and rewind it, the wire doesn't catch, and all the old sticky stuff from the adhesions and things from the previous wraps and wire and whatnot. So that's the underside of the coil. We'll leave the top, and we'll leave the magnets as they are, rusted on the ends, just for the authenticity for the customer. We do as little as possible just to get it back into working condition. So there's the coil. I've just knocked the slug pieces back up so when I can put it in the winder and get it in the correct position. So again, just getting it all the muck out of it. Preparing the old butyrate bobbin for a rewind. Okay, so the damaged coil's been rewound. The original wire, let me see it properly. Gotta be careful with this now. So that's the finish end of it. We just re-tape it up, and we're back in business. So there's our original running at around 4K. Rewind running 399 around 4K. All good. Just reapplying the original black tape, paper tape. This is the proper stuff from Japan. This one, it's rice paper tape. It's really good. Hard to do. I have no idea how this is coming out because I'm just videoing it whilst I'm doing it with it strapped to my head. So apologies if you're missing a fair bit of this. I'm sure it's not that bloody riveting to watch anyway. Test, test, test is my motto. 402. 402, oh Jesus, Rodney, you're a bloody genius. So now what we need to do is we reconnect the start end to our active and rejoin the two center wires, tape it all up, place the bobbins back in, and then I'll give it another external tape as well to protect everything and hold everything in place, and final test, and we should be good. All right, here we go, back together. Most important part. .13. Now I've been playing around with it, so it's fairly warm, so it'll cool down to around about, it's 8.05 or somewhere around there. Good to go. 59 vintage double black PAF.